Um, we've gotten some news this week that I think is beneficial, in the grand scheme of things. The main thing being that a company has come through saying that they have a candidate for a COVID vaccine that is currently set at 90% effective,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
That's not, you know, the the barrier of entry for the FDA in the states, as far as I'm aware of, is greater than 50%.
That's right.
So they're still in the like late trials of it, and they've got plenty of wiggle room that if the overall effectiveness drops, even a very significant amount, they still have enough to qualify things to make it a valid option.
Yeah.
So
And then if it does, people are starting to think, all right, well, what's the time frame of rolling that out? And
yep.
that sounds, it matches the most optimistic case that we've been hearing all along, which is that, it would start to hit the market toward the end of this year, and probably the frontline healthcare folks would get it first, and then the most at risk, and then sort of we'd be looking Q1 into Q2, maybe middle of next year before it's really out for everybody, which, frankly, that's the fastest timeline anybody really thought was reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, from a communicable disease standpoint, it's unprecedented to have that kind of speed.
Yeah, but so what that means is that maybe next summer we're back in business as bands. Maybe.
Could be.
Yeah. Yeah, huge if true.
You know, we kind of need to look at things from a top-down, approach for guys like, the biggest tour that like was going on in our realm was that Motley Crue, Def Leppard,
Yeah.
Stadium tour. The likelihood of that happening in the summer is possible, but not necessarily probable. I feel
Yeah.
like them pushing it out an additional year may be realistic.
That seems really likely to me.
But, working your way down the tiers for guys in our world, what you're saying is, yeah, late Q1, Q2 could mean a return to quote unquote normal.
Yep.
Because the vaccine had gotten out far enough, and the market is more comfortable with that approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, with that in mind, I know that you sent me an article that you wanted to talk about that I feel like is definitely relevant to what we are talking about. So why don't you go ahead and take
well, so the mere presence of a vaccine doesn't necessarily get us back to normal, right? Because we don't know who's taking it. We don't know the stats. Still don't know really, compared to some other countries, our test and trace is still pretty primitive. But there was an article on Billboard.com about how Ticketmaster plans to make their events safe. And it basically revolves around some apps that people will attest and share proof of either vaccination or a recent clean test in ways that are safe, HIPAA wise. They don't expose personal identifying information, and so there's not a security or privacy issue about it. And that it would leave you able to have a big event like that and really know that the people coming are not a risk of turning your event into a super spreader moment. And that's always been sort of in my mind the two ways out are either mass vaccination to create herd immunity, or tests are, littering the streets and they cost 50 cents and everyone's
Right.
tested on their way in. To me, it's going to be one of those two things. And there has been this plan here in this article from Billboard about how Ticketmaster plans to address that. It's really, really exciting. So that was good news, but then you brought me down to the ground about that just before we hit record on this.
Let's not get there quite yet. So Jonathan was actually talking about this, and as we were talking
here on the live stream,
we just dropped it right in.
Comments exactly to that. Yeah.
Scott Smith going CBC turned CDC, which I will take that.
I like it.
The question here, the article got posted, and the response from the general population was, let's say, mixed. What did you see?
Mixed. I mean, some people like excited that we're putting some tech in place that can get us back into a normal life. And then some people saying like, how dare you invade my whatnot? And, there's no such thing as privacy really. And, a lot of sort of conspiracy. Well, I mean, reasonable. I think it's reasonable to be concerned about privacy. I think people should be more concerned about privacy than they are.
Sure.
But, for sure it was, wait, 2020 America polarized about something? How could that be? It was polarized. It certainly was. Yeah.
So yeah, I think what you're saying is right on the money. There's a subset of people, I would say the diehards, the people that are like just chomping at the bit, that will go, I will do whatever it takes
Sign me up.
in order to get back in a room with people and to commune in this way. And there's other people who are going, I'm not willing to cross that threshold in order to experience this. I don't feel comfortable with that level of oversight being, available to a private organization, that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's basically, I was seeing more negative than positive, but I feel like every time somebody posted it in a negative way, there were enough positive people kind of piling on going, if this is what it takes to get back to normal, I'm on board.
It was a two-directional pile-on, no question.
100%. Yeah. So in that, I think a couple of things happened. I think Billboard took some conversations that they saw Ticketmaster having and kind of extrapolated some things. And I feel like if you go to the bottom of the article, which I don't know why anybody would read an article that was posted as opposed to just reading what's on the headline.
No, doesn't the headline tell you everything? It's enough to argue with anyway, right? I mean,
sure.
Really all it takes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So in response
I'm not cynical about our discourse in this nation at all. Not a hint of,
A lot of TLDR responses happened. So as of earlier today, Ticketmaster issued the following statement correcting the original report from Billboard. This is what they had to say. It was widely misreported yesterday that Ticketmaster will be requiring vaccine status / test results for future events. This is not true. Ticketmaster does not have the power to set policies around safety / entry requirements, which would include vaccines and or testing protocols. That is up to the discretion of the event organizer. We are indeed exploring these options, but it is still only a potential concept. And Ticketmaster will not be able to require such parameters. It would always be up to the event organizer.
Yeah.
So that's Ticketmaster's official stance.
Yeah,
There's a wrinkle to that, though, a little bit.
Yeah.
So Ticketmaster is a part of a larger organization. Live Nation is the event organizer, and if Ticketmaster is the exclusive ticket vendor for Live Nation, then you're kind of inadvertently passing the buck a little bit to a subsidiary.
Right.
So there's that. But I think what they're saying is kind of on the money. Like, it is ultimately up to their discretion. A private organization cannot dictate that kind of thing. I mean, we have seen in this country so far that that we can't even get a single state to agree with anybody else. So
we don't respond well to being told what to do. That's certainly true. And I think if you kind of parse what they said there, they are saying that somebody could dictate that about their event, but it's not going to be Ticketmaster, which I think is probably the right place to hold it. I think I like that they might be exploring technical options they could provide to event organizers, so the event organizer could choose to, kick those things off. I don't know. It's just interesting. I have this vision that I could put on like a really great big show, and everybody would get a 5-minute spit test at the door, and then whoever doesn't like that they have to do that can deal with the bouncers or something. I don't know. It's because that would be polarizing. That would be, how dare you, keep me away from you while I might be infected. I don't know. The logic of it doesn't really hold, but
yeah,
here we are.
5-minute spit test, the title of your section.
Yeah, it's the title of my Yeah.
Anywho. I think there's valid arguments on either side, but this is an unprecedented situation.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to kind of see what happens.
Yep.
And I think in this current situation, we were talking about this last week, that there is definitely a good reason to invest in the live streaming ecosystem.
Yep.
But I think at some point uh, the be concerned, stay home crowd and the I've got to get out of here social crowd are just, there's going to be a tipping point, and we're just going to have to kind of wrestle with, what concessions are we comfortable with in order to get back to doing what we would like to do.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, the numbers don't look good anywhere in the country right now. So
Nope.
is that sufficient to push that tipping point in one direction or the other? Like it all remains to be seen. There's no. I gave up trying to forecast this somewhere toward the third week of March because there's just no telling. There's no way to know.
Yeah. I mean, for those of us who have friends who own small businesses, it's starting to get really concerning.
Yeah.
Because, for the most part, a lot of the year that we have been locked down, the weather has been okay. And we have not really been in a situation where it's been cold and people can't go inside, and whether some of these business models that have been sustainable during warm weather are going to make it through a cold snap
right
this long. So, we've seen so many businesses go under. I think they said, 1 in 5 small businesses have closed, will not return. It may be even higher than that at this point.
Right.
And we had a local venue here closed this week that was doing live music, multiple nights a week. Ben, who is being very not nice in the live stream, was running sound there, and lost his gig because they closed down. Luckily for him, he's gotten some other stuff coming up. And we do need to talk about the thing that he wanted to talk about, but I don't think we're going to make it this week. Okay. So we'll have to circle back to that.
We'll owe it to him.
Don't worry about that. We will definitely get to it.
We have lost brew pubs here in town, a couple of restaurants, including some like ones that you would have said, never would have, 3-generation, mainstays of the community. Pretty heartbreaking. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know how do you get around it.
You don't?
One of my buddies who owns a series of a series. He owns a bunch of restaurants, not a chain. They're all different, but they had a positive case this week. They had to shut one of them down.
Yep.
And they have been really fortunate because the weather's been so nice that they've been actually getting pre-COVID numbers during this lockdown because they've got all this outside seating. That's good. And things have been working.
That's good. My town here in Greensboro, they opened up the main street downtown, Elm Street, which is the main drag through downtown. They closed it on Friday and Saturday nights and let restaurants sort of take over the street space as outdoor service area. And there are some restaurants that are saying they're beating last year's numbers.
Crazy.
And in fact, it's such a popular thing that the city's looking at doing it permanently. So, again, one of those things that'll fall out of the end of this as, we were forced to go into this, but you know what? It actually is pretty great. So we'll stick with it.
Yeah. Timothy Gerald in the live stream posted, yep, despite us not being able to play music, I feel the worst for the owners we have developed relationships with and watching them suffer/close because of this. I mean,
no question.
I think every single person who's listening to this has a story like that. I mean, we all do.
Totally.
And, those of us with day jobs are definitely feel fortunate because we can put our work aside and kind of on ice while, all of this stuff kind of plays itself out, and we'll be okay on the other side of it. I know for people in the service industry, there's been a lot of issues with substance abuse and suicide and just like really, really dark stuff. Yeah. So we are definitely very fortunate to just be two guys in our houses talking about this kind of thing and not having to live it, on a day-to-day basis.
Really true. Yeah.
So, if we get FDA clearance on this vaccine and its efficacy kind of remains where it's at, I would definitely, roll my sleeve up and get it, as soon as I could.
Absolutely.
And then I would go out and I would start licking doorknobs. I will
bring my groceries in without washing them.